Let's go live now to Andrew Clennell. He's speaking to Liberal Senator Andrew Bragg.
Yes, thanks, Kieran. Andrew Bragg joins me from the launch of the Coogee Liberal candidate in Sydney's eastern suburbs. Andrew Bragg, thanks for your time. Before I get to the government's changes to super this week, you're someone who's never supported compulsory superannuation. What do you think should replace it, and what do you see as the problem with the system?
Well, good morning, Andrew. If the government wanted to get a boost to the budget, one thing it could do straight away would be to make super voluntary. That would improve the overall budget position, but it would also give Australians a lot more agency to solve their own problems with their own money. For example, they might want to use that money to purchase a first home. So I think they have a lot of options there to consider that the government won't consider, mainly for ideological reasons.
So you'd like to see a voluntary system, but surely as the years go by, there's some evidence this helps a lot of people in retirement, or it has, hasn't it, the Keating Policy?
Well, all the analysis shows over the long term that super never delivers a positive benefit to the budget. It gets very few people off the age pension. But what it has done is it has been a huge honeypot for rent seekers in the banks and the unions to charge high fees on people's money. And I think there is a better way, and that would be looking at how we can use people's own money to drive home ownership, which is a huge issue for millennials. I mean, home ownership has fallen off a cliff for millennials, and I think denying people access to their own money is frankly quite cruel and strange.
All right, a couple of points on this. You say the best form of saving is a house. You've said that before. But not everyone can afford a house, can they? Even if they're putting aside, even if they were able to access their super.
Well, there's no question that super for housing wouldn't solve all the problems. I mean, there's still the supply issue, and it is important that state, federal and local governments are working together to improve planning and development so that more houses can be built. Because, of course, if you have more supply, ultimately that makes it easier for people to get access to a house, whether it be for ownership or maybe for rental purposes. So that is a very important policy area for us.
All right, now the Coalition, you're continuing with this Morrison policy of allowing people to, first-home buyers to access super to buy a house. But first-home owner grants were seen to have lifted house prices. Wouldn't this simply do the same? To have more money out there to buy houses, house prices would go up?
There's no question that many younger people would like to have their own money for a first home deposit. Now, our policy is a start. It allows people to use a certain amount of their own super and then put it back in. Personally, I would be in favour of expanding that scheme so that people could use more of their super and not have to put it back into the scheme. I just think that at the end of the day, if you are a low-income person, and the biggest pool of money you have is locked away in a super fund, then you're never going to get access to a first home. So there's no question that if you have a home in retirement, your retirement is better than it otherwise would be. I mean, being a retired renter on the pension is a very difficult retirement. Even Treasury's retirement income review showed that. So I don't think it should be necessarily a choice. I mean, people can have a home and then look to make their own provisions for savings.
Under the compulsory super scheme, I guess they'd have some super to go with the age pension. Anyway, what do you make of the tax changes that Jim Chalmers has made on superannuation, the $3 million tax?
Well, I think if the government was serious about budget management, it would be looking to cull its massive off-balance sheet items, over $40 billion in slush funds like the Reconstruction Fund, and then of course it's also spending a lot of money. We've got no idea of whether or not it's going to bank its huge windfall gains from the commodity prices. So raising taxes is the last thing they should be doing. And I just think it sends the wrong message to people that the government will pull the rug from underneath you.
Should the change be indexed?
Well, I don't think they should be doing the change. Certainly, if the change was going to go ahead, it would be better if it was indexed. If it's not indexed, then over 500,000 people will be hit by this creeping tax, which I should say, I mean, the government hasn't even been upfront with people as to how it will work on unrealised gains, and they haven't been upfront with people about whether it will apply to their 5 cabinet ministers who are on defined benefit schemes, who obviously sat in the cabinet room and discussed a tax that may or may not apply to themselves.